Welcome back, College Baseball Central fans and fans of the Beavs on the Diamond Podcast. We're back for another episode here. Having a fun episode, getting ready in this preseason. Had a lot of fun looking at teams and looking at this Beaver team. It's going to be a really, really, really good one. Um, but we wanted to break down some fun here. So, with some of my friends, we looked through some of these teams in the 21st century. So this is teams all the way back to 2000, all the way up till now. So we wanted to look at some of these guys, and we wanted to say, we had the arguments and discussions. What's the best Beaver baseball lineup? Who's that guy? Who's those guys? Who would we set as a lineup here? And so I went through, took a lot of time, talked to a lot of Beaver fans, got a lot of opinions, went stat diving, went in and looked at some of these guys, and a lot of this is based on statistics and feel, guys that were in the program that you're like, hey, this is a Beaver through and through. This is a guy that really meant a lot to the program in the time that they were at the program. A lot of these guys have had MLB success, but that doesn't mean that that's the reason why they're on this team. Being good in the MLB does not mean that you automatically made this team. Being great in college usually does mean that you made this team. So I'm going to go through. We created a lineup. We created a team. I got a lineup coming out for you here. It's going to be 1 through 9, and then I got some bench players, and I got some pitchers, and we're just going to talk about it. We're just going to go through. I'm going to give you some stats and discuss some of these guys and the greatness that has been the Beaver baseball in the 21st century. I know we're all looking forward to this 2025 season going independent. Taking a look at this schedule, we've already done that breakdown. I'm very excited for this team. But this one here, this one was fun. I reached out to some of my buddies who've been friends for a long, long time. We went through. We decided that we were going to go through this, and uh, it was really important to get their opinions and see where guys were at on this list and see what other people thought. I mean, seeing where my feelings align with that, and maybe taking a second look at guys that I've looked over the past few years. Looking at guys that maybe should have been in this. And I want to hear from you, Beaver fans. I know that you guys are going to have people that differ from my opinions on this matter. You guys are going to have people, but I really believe the lineup we're sending out here is one of the best for what you could call an all 21st century club across teams across the country. And it really speaks volumes of the Beaver fans and speaks volumes of the program over the last 24 years and the talent that has come through Beaver Nation and played in front of all you wonderful, faithful fans. And I'm just really excited to bring this one to you. So we're going to get into it here. We're going to start here. I'm gonna move my camera over so you guys can see all the fun stuff here. So I'm gonna start it off here. This is gonna release the 9, and I'm gonna go through 1 through 9, and then I'll release the bench players, and then I'll release the pitchers. So let's just get into it here. This is my starting lineup. This is the lineup that I would put out there against anybody else in the country when you're talking about a 21st century team from the Oregon State Beavers. And realistically, this team here, I think, is one of the best in the country, and we're gonna start with it. So, leading off center field, Jacoby Ellsbury. He meant so much for the program when he was here. He was one of those guys that helped put the Beavs on the map and say, "Hey, there's a lot of talent out here." This guy, not too far from me here in Madras, Oregon. As you know, I live up here in Redmond, and just 30 miles north of here. That's where he grew up and played, and then he got to Oregon State and just exploded. 365 career average, 16 home runs, 101 RBIs, Pac-12 Player of the Year. He was drafted in the first round, as many of you guys know. Terrific career. He got ended early with some injuries, but man, while he was at Oregon State, he meant a lot to the program, and he was one of the reasons why they became a top 10 team in the country, and really had to include Jacoby on this list. And I think having him lead off is a safe spot. I mean, with his speed and ability to hit, it's pretty tough to put anybody else up there. I like Travis Bazzana to playing second base. I think that 2 is a good spot for him on this list. You could argue that maybe you could have him anywhere in this lineup and he'd produce, but I think Travis being at 2 with the speed he has, the contact he has, 360 career average, 45 career home runs, 165 RBI. He was up for Golden Spikes player. He won Pac-12 Player of the Year. There's just so many awards you could throw at him. He's number 1. Not a lot of teams have one of those guys, and we have two of them hitting back to back. Drafted 1-1. I know that the recent things I've read here, he's going in the prospect list as the number 2 prospect coming into the season. Travis Bazzana deserves to be here with the terrific career that he had at Oregon State, and we want to make sure we celebrate him. You just don't get those guys all the time, and then when you get a guy like Travis, you got to celebrate it. And so I have him here playing second base and hitting 2. I know, guys, there's going to be some guys that are not on this list yet. Don't worry. We're going to talk about some bench players, and there's room for the arguments of people playing in there. I chose the positions based on guys that was their primary position. And so guys that primarily played this position in their career while at Oregon State. So that was my goal, was to kind of set this up that way and say, hey, these are the guys that primarily played in this spot. Now, outfielders, they might have primarily played a different outfield position, but outfielders, they moved around to quite a few outfield positions. So number 3, Adley Rutschman. He meant so much while he was here. National Player of the Year, Golden Spikes winner, Pac-12 Player of the Year. He hit 353, 28 home runs, and 174 RBIs, and won a title with his team. Terrific young man. Went number 1, Oregon local kid up in Sherwood. Just really excited that he deserves to be on this list, and he's making a name for himself. He had a little down season in the MLB this year. He's going to be fine. He's going to bounce back. Switch hitting catcher, a guy that did so much for Oregon State and was so good behind the dish also. Really feels right to have him in at this 3-hole in this location here. I think Adley is just one of those guys that you could build around. Guy that was, when I was watching probably the most college baseball other than I do now, number 4, Michael Conforto, playing right field. Listen, Conforto was huge for Beaver Nation. He was a 2-time Pac-12 Player of the Year, folks. He was so good when he was in a Beaver uniform. Career 340, hit 31 home runs, 179 RBIs, getting to the World Series. And, there were some tough games there. But listen, Michael Conforto deserves to be on this list. I think having him in the 4-hole just proves how much he was as an RBI producer for this team, and how consistent and good he was over the years. And I think having him there just says, hey, this is the right spot and this is a good spot for him. And I think Michael Conforto meant so much during those years that he played at Oregon State, and terrific young man again. A lot of these guys we talk about here are just good people. They were great baseball players, and they just mean so much to the program. So good to throw them on the list. Love Conforto here, hitting cleanup and playing right field. Number 5, fifth spot here, Garrett Forrester, playing first base. He was a really solid first baseman for Oregon State, and he hit, and he had one of the best eyes in the country. And he was just really good about getting on base. But also, you throw that in, 326 career average, 26 home runs, 144 RBIs. Really good producer here at the 5 slot. I wanted to have somebody that I felt like, in my mind, where you're going to have somebody that can put the ball in play when you need it. He can drive the ball to the ballpark. He's going to produce runs. He's going to be getting walks when he has to and be really smart with the stick. Garrett Forster checks all those boxes, and he's in the Pirates organization now in the MLB, so good for him. And I couldn't be more proud of G. I think that Garrett was so good and meant so much for so many people here. He had some injuries he fought through to be able to play, and really his freshman year he was just terrific. And then playing through all that and getting here and sticking it out and playing with Oregon State, and just a huge addition. Great glue guy. Loves hunting, fishing, all the fun things out here in the Northwest, and he was just a real good guy for this list. And I couldn't say enough about Garrett in the most recent years, getting to watch him play. Really wish that they could have got to Omaha for him and done all those fun things, but Garrett Forrester deserves to be on this list. KJ Harrison hitting DH. People are going to argue this DH slot position. I know that my friends argued with me quite a bit. I just always remembered KJ being one of those guys that could put the ball in the ballpark and do big things for you and come up with clutch hits. 297 career average, so a little bit lower on the career average side, but 29 home runs, 150 RBIs. The guy was solid, and he played a lot of first base, but he was a hitter. I mean, he wasn't the best first baseman in the country. He wasn't great at first base, but he wasn't bad. He wasn't detrimental, but I think DH would have been his spot more. Had we had more guys at that time. But KJ was just great young man. Great baseball player. Having him here at the DH slot and hitting six for us is just a good spot for him, I thought. Number seven, more continued success as of recent. Jacob Melton playing left field, career 364 average, 26 home runs, 147 RBIs. He was one of those guys that was clutch, and he came up in so many situations. And yeah, never really got to the point where we wanted him to get to and get to the World Series and all those things. But Jacob was a big part of this program for a long time, and a guy that really had to battle for his spot on the Beavers roster. And once he got the opportunity, man, he was really, really good. And really good to see Jacob getting on this list here. I think that he was one of those consensus guys where we said, hey, got to get him in there somewhere, whether that be DH or whether that be in the outfield. You know, I think that he's one of those guys that really fits the mold of being one of the 21st century guys. And hit a few home runs that I was in person for that I'm not sure have come down still. A lot of these guys, a lot of power. Everybody on this list has double digit home runs all the way down until Darwin. So really, these guys were what it meant to be a Beaver. Shea McFeely, number 8 here, hitting 8, playing third base. Listen, 303 career hitter. You're like, okay, that's not much. 14 home runs, 130 RBIs. The guy was a producer. He always came up in big situations. One of the most clutch players in Beaver history. Uh, and third base was kind of one of those spots where we looked at and there just wasn't this huge plethora of guys that we see like in the outfield and we see at first base and shortstop and even catcher where we have guys. But he really was really, really good for the Beavers, and he did a lot of things for this Oregon State club, and he was very important in their success. But yeah, he was just so clutch, and he always came up in big situations, got the big hit when we needed him to, and it was really important to me to have Shea on this list just because of how it was when I was growing up and getting to see him play. And I had these big feelings for McFeely, thinking that, he should be on this list. And the stats don't lie. 303, 14, 130. It's a pretty good career at any level here. And then number 9, Darwin Barney, shortstop. Listen, people can argue with me, but Darwin is what it meant to be a Beaver. Like he came in and really just took care of business and really was what it was to be an Oregon State Beaver. And I'm really proud to have Darwin on this list. Shortstop, 311 career hitter, 7 home runs, 136 RBIs. So even only on the 7 home runs, still producing 136 RBIs. He was a big reason why this squad was built. One of those things, lifetime Beaver. He was coaching here until last year, until this year. Terrific guy, really cares about Oregon State baseball. He's been around, and I'm just proud to have him on this list. I think that Darwin probably wouldn't put himself on this list, but I would make sure to have him on this list at all times because I just think he meant that much to Oregon State baseball. It's just really important. And then if I'm there's so many pitchers you could pick to be the starting pitcher, right? We got guys like Jerpy, the National Pitcher of the Year. We got guys like Luke Heimlich, who've been out there and won 36 games. Kevin Abel, if you're picking one game to win, maybe he's your guy. Terrific freshman year and got hurt and never really was the same. Andrew Moore. I mean, we're going to talk more about these guys. Dallas Buck, Matt Boyd. But for me, Jonah Nickerson meant so much for this consistency and what he was able to produce. And 26-9 record in his career, 2.74 ERA for his career. Tough to go away from him, in my opinion. He was Mr. Consistent. He'd go out there and you knew what you were going to get from Jonah, and he was going to compete. And he was a fiery young man, and he just wanted to go out there and get some wins. And that's why I selected him here. I know that there was actually no consistency picking who was going to be the starting pitcher for this team, and you really could go with any of those guys that I just mentioned, and we'll get more into each one of them and their stats later. But I made this decision on my own. I chose Jonah. I think that he is one of those guys that you lean forward and say he meant a lot to the program at the time he was there, and the way he played really matches with what Beaver baseball is all about. So I love Jonah. I think having him on this list here in this spot is deserving. I think that he belongs there, and I was really happy to add him on this list and have him as my starting pitcher here. So as you see it here, we'll go through 1 through 9. Jacoby Ellsbury hitting 1, Travis Bazzana hitting 2, Adley Rutschman hitting 3, Michael Conforto 4, Garrett Forrester hitting 5, KJ Harrison 6, Jacob Melton 7, Shea McFeely 8, and Darwin Barney 9 with Jonah Nickerson on the bump. That is our starting lineup for the 21st Century team. Now, yes, I want to hear from all you Beaver fans. I'm certain you guys are going to have different opinions on this, and I'm all for it. I'm all for the conversation that it sparks. I think that having the discussions here, but like I said, my metrics where I went through and pulled some of their stats for their careers, and then a lot of it was talking to guys and finding out the feel of how important they were to the locker room, to the guys, and what they meant for the program at the time that they were there. And this is my lineup. I set this. This is mine, with the help of guys like Fish, Matt, and Scott Emmerman. Those guys jumped in and helped out, and I'm appreciative of their help. But this is the lineup that I set, and I think that I'm proud of it. I think that this is a good 21st century team. Let's get into the bench players here. But before we do that, just want to say, if you have not gone out and got your Chinook seeds yet, go out and buy your Chinook seeds. They are some of the best on the planet. Use our code CBC to get 10% off your entire first order at chinookseedery.com. Go on there. They got 8 different flavors. I know I've been switching more to the jalapeno ranch. It's freaking awesome. Smokehouse barbecue is great. People do the hatch chili all the time. Flavor that's grabbing a lot of traction here, folks, is cinnamon toast. I know. Y'all are saying that that's just craziness. That's just weird. It's so good. It really is terrific. You guys are going to have to go out and try it. I know that I will be down there on April 5th doing a giveaway, hopefully, where we're going to give away a whole bunch of sunflower seeds. So you guys are going to have to come out and see me. It'll be me. I'm bringing Sunny with me. We'll come down there. We're going to be giving out a ton of sunflower seeds. We'll do some talks. We'll do some photos. We'll do all the fun stuff down there for a Beaver game against UCI when they take on the Anteaters of California, of Irvine. So I can't wait. I'll see you guys down there. But yes, brought to you today by Chinook Seedery. Use code CBC at checkout. Get 10% off your entire first order. Go on there and check it out. Let's get into the bench, guys. Now, this was a harder discussion. I didn't want to have a huge roster. I didn't want to throw out, I could throw out 50, 60 guys and felt comfortable. I wanted to limit this to where I thought, hey, we got 7 guys that we're going to throw on there and say that these are our bench guys, and this is the lineup we're going to go out there with. And this way it kind of gives us a more realistic college roster is what we're looking for. So this is where we went. Nick Madrigal. I know. People are like, how did Nick not make the starting lineup? Well, he was a second baseman for most of his career, and when he didn't, he played a little bit shortstop. And listen, I love Nick. I think that he was so integral to what was a Beaver at that time, and he was a big Beav guy. 361 career average, 8 home runs, 103 RBIs. Really important to what the Beavs were doing, but when it all comes down to it, I mean, he's not better than Trav in my mind, and he wasn't what Darwin Barney was at the time when he came through. So I'm going to have him on the bench here. He's probably my first guy off the bench, probably my first guy out there. But Nick was so important as a utility guy. I have him listed on my list here. He could just play anywhere. He could really fill in any of those positions in the infield and be great. But yeah, Nick was so important and really good. So we want to make sure he's first on the bench, just saying. But this bench order is not necessarily in order. I wanted to point out that Nick is first for that reason. And I do think that he was so integral and such an important part of this team. Next guy, Stephen Kwan, very important part of that Beaver baseball team and what it meant to be a Beaver, and just a grinder, hard-nosed guy. Really cared about his teammates, went out there and gave everything he had. 328, 3 home runs, 68 RBIs. He was never that big thumper, but he was always on base, always doing the things that were needed for the ball club, and whatever the team needed, he was there for it. He's had some success here in the MLB, which has been terrific, Gold Gloves and just being terrific out there. But yeah, I mean, Stephen Kwan is just so important to what it was for Beaver Nation at the time when he was playing and what he meant to those guys in that locker room and just being a glue guy. So Stephen Kwan on there as our second bench player. Mitch Canham, coach. Coach made the list here. Listen, people will probably, if you don't remember, you need to get learned. So any of you new fans out there who haven't really gone back in the history of the program, Mitch Canham was terrific. Catcher, 314 hitter, 25 RBIs, 25 home runs, and 152 RBIs. He was can't miss action, and he was terrific behind the dish there, catching some really good pitchers in this time, and going out there and getting some titles. And he was just part of the guys that were built Oregon State baseball for Pat Casey, and it's great to have him as the head coach now. But his playing days, he 100% deserves to be on this list. Again, 314 career average, 25 home runs, and 152 RBIs while playing catcher. It is unbelievable. If it wasn't for Adley, obviously he'd be the starting catcher for this roster. But with Adley on there, it's tough. It's tough to beat out Adley. But Mitch was so important and such a great guy for this team. Michael Gretler, one of those guys that I felt I really wanted to put on this team, right? One of those guys that worked really, really hard to become what he was and be able to make it onto Oregon State baseball, and one of those walk-on guys that really it took a lot. It took a lot for him to get into the game. It took a lot for him to be able to get his opportunity. Once he did, he meant a lot for the program. And a 283 hitter career-wise, and that's just because he had a down, bad season. But 13 home runs, 100 RBIs. Like, he was the producer when he got in and he got the opportunities. And he was good every day at third base. Um, Battled through a bunch of injuries, and he really just meant a lot to the program to be able to keep playing baseball and where he was at that time. Love seeing Gret on this list. His time in Omaha was terrific and important, and I think that he's one of those guys you want to have out there. So I think that having him on the bench is just a good spot for him. But yeah, again, 100 RBI producer on the bench is a nice luxury to have here. Next guy, then we're going to talk about Cole Gillespie. I know maybe some of you younger Beaver fans don't remember Cole. He was a Pac-10 player of the year. Uh, he meant a lot. He's 348 hitter, 14 home runs, 78 career RBIs. Really important guy. I felt that he had to be on this list. He really had the opportunity between him and Melton to be one of those starting outfielders, and I thought that Melton just edged him out. But Cole, I wanted to make sure was on this list. Cole was very important to building the program and getting the Beavs to where they are today, and then started this whole train rolling. He was a big part of those teams, and I'm very happy to have Cole on this roster. I think he's deserved so, and I think that it's important to have him on there. Gavin Turley, the only current player, spoiler alert, to be on the roster. People said, hey, you shouldn't have current players on there if you're going to put them on the all 21st century team. I feel like last year I probably would have had Travis on this list anyway, so having Gavin on this list is not a surprise. Gav's a 289 career hitter. It's going up. 33 career home runs and 120 RBIs. Those numbers are only going to grow this year. Can't wait to see Gavin get out there and crush the baseball and be a part of this terrific club this year. I think he's going to be the all-time leader in home runs. He could get up there and be the all-time leader in RBIs. It wouldn't surprise me. This guy has huge potential to be a first-round draft pick as well. Gavin deserves to be on this list. I mean, we're building a 21st century team. The 33 home runs in his freshman and sophomore seasons is crazy to think of. And, he's just coming into his junior year. Now, I think I had to put Gav on this list. I know a lot of people did not want me to put him on the list because they didn't want current players. Gavin's on the list. I think that he belongs here. He's important. He's done everything that you expect to be a Beaver. He hit all the grand slams. He's done all the big things. He's come up in big moments and produced for this team. He was so huge a year ago in the postseason, and last year he was great. Like, I cannot wait to see what he does this year. Gavin, you deserve to be on this list. I'm putting you on here. And then the last guy, Trevor Larnach, and people are going to say, Trevor had a great junior season and he was terrific, and he was. But he did a lot of things for the Beavers, and that home run in Omaha against Arkansas was one of the reasons people remember him. But he was really solid all the time. 311 hitter, 22 home runs, 128 RBIs, and really became that solid player in the outfield. And he wasn't a superstar out there, but he was solid and he gave you opportunities. He's a guy I looked hard at being the DH with him and KJ Harrison. I think it came down to RBIs and home runs there that kind of switched me on there to have Harrison in there. But yeah, Trevor Larnach, one of those really important guys out there that really produced and RBIs and the 22 home runs over his career. So there it is, folks. These are our 7 bench players that have felt embossed and showed what Beaver Nation is and said, hey, these are the guys that are important for us. These are the guys that I feel like I want to make sure that I highlight because they're what it means to be Beaver Nation and what it means to be an Oregon State Beaver in the 21st century. So again, folks, these are just the 21st century, not going back in time, nothing before 2000. So these are these guys. All right, now the pitching staff, and I think we put together a staff. Pitching has been a thing for the Beavers for so long. So you got to say, okay, well, there's so many guys out there that could be, the starters. There's so many guys out there you could put on this list. There are. The list was impressive. There were so many guys that I probably missed, frankly, that probably could have been on this list, and I just held them off for one reason or another. And a lot of guys had postseason success and not as much success during the regular season, and some guys just didn't necessarily fit what we were looking for to put on this roster. These are the guys we felt really were important to the program and really did everything that we asked them to do and really took on that role, whether it was building the program or whether it was continuing the success of this program and being a Beaver through and through. So Cooper Trippy, National Pitcher of the Year, 15-9. He didn't really come into his own until his final season with the Oregon State Beavers. 3.37 ERA though. He was almost unhittable that junior year, and he was so good. Wish he could have won the last one. He came in relief and won that game in Vanderbilt against Vanderbilt. Lost in the Super Regional against our Auburn, but really love Cooper. Love what he had done for the Beavers and coming out there and just grinding to that junior year and really working on his game and getting out there, and he was so good, and he won National Pitcher of the Year. So I wanted to highlight him and put him on this list here. Matt Boyd, one of those guys that helped build the program. 15-4, 2.17 ERA. People forget how low his ERA was over his career and how good he was as a solid pitcher. Not as many starts as some of these guys on this list, but an important one that his winning percentage was so high at 15-4. Just really, really talented, really good out there with that lefty style and giving you a chance. Really loved what Matt Boyd did for Oregon State baseball. Dallas Buck, guy that I actually competed with in high school, out there in Newburgh. Super talented guy. 28-10 over his career, 3.25 ERA. Came in and did some relief appearances as well. He was one of those guys that they just leaned on when they needed somebody to go out there and go get them some outs, right? Really important Beaver, 04 to 07 out there, going out there and win titles. He really helped put the Beavers on the map, and he was one of those gritty guys that you go out there and wanted the ball. Said, "Give me the ball. I'm going to go out there and get this start, get this win." So one of the guys I wanted to really put on this list because of he meant what it was to be a Beaver, and he helped build the program at that time. Of course, winning those titles for the Oregon State Beavs. Luke Heimlich, 36-13, 2.49 ERA. You're talking about a guy that really was terrific through a career for Oregon State and kind of ended in the way that we didn't hope that it was going to end, and it was sad to see it go down that way. And the story's all over the place, and it's unfortunate. But Luke was such a good pitcher with the 36-13 and 2.49 ERA and a good young man, and proud to have him on the list. I think that he deserves to be on this list, and he was so good for the Beavers for a long time. That 36 win mark is crazy to get up that high. Really deserves to be on there, and I'm proud to put him on this list. Kevin Abel, again, we talked about him a little bit. The postseason marks are just what did it, right? Winning a College World Series and shutting out one of the best lineups in the history of the College World Series and shutting down that Arkansas squad. 13-6, 3.31 career ERA. It really, for me, was how much he put into that season and won the national championship for Oregon State there. And him going on the mound and just shutting down a terrific Arkansas team. And yeah, there's a little rain. Got us an extra day, got him out there. Goes out there and throws a complete game shutout against one of the best offenses in the country and shuts it down. And it was just crazy to see. And Kevin Abel, huge victory there. But yeah, 13-6, 3.31 ERA. And then the last starting pitcher I'm going to mention today, Andrew Moore. Not as much postseason success, but really, really, really talented guy. 27-9 with a 2.10 ERA over his lifetime, and he went out there and he just competed every single time. It didn't matter whether he was the Friday, Saturday, or Sunday guy. He didn't care. Just give him the ball, let him go compete for you. One of those gritty guys that went out there and just gave everything he had to the program. And great to have Andrew on this list. The 27 victories are just way up there. Just one behind Dallas, one ahead of Jonah. And the 2.10 ERA was really one of those guys that was really tough to hit. He just competed, beat up the zone, went after it. Relief pitchers. So, the career set of Kevin Gunderson, 15-8. So 15 wins out of relief guy, 2.62 ERA, but he had the 37 saves, which set the record for Oregon State for saves. Just a Beaver through and through. I know he still does pitching camps. He still has a pitching school. I think he's got full baseball school now. Oregon State guy through and through. He was just a grinder. Went out there and really just competed out there, and one of those guys that was fiery, and he'd go out there and go give you those wins and give you those saves, and he'd pitch in all those clutch situations, and he really had to be the lead reliever for me when I think back of Oregon State relievers in my career. Jake Mulholland, 14-10 overall, 2.53 ERA, 43 saves. Now, people are going to say, yeah, he pitched a long time. Yeah, but it takes a lot to be able to pitch a long time at that level. And Jake did that. Jake went out there and just competed. The 14-10 record, that happens. It's not the best thing in the world, but 2.53 ERA, 43 saves. Just a terrific career going out there and pitching over the years. Brandon Eisert, 18-5, 2.28 ERA, and 9 saves. The save numbers wasn't high, but he came in a lot of high stress situations. That's why he has those 18 wins, and he actually did pitch as a starting pitcher for one season, and was really good for the Beavs. But he was one of those battle guys. He was one of those guys you put out there when you really needed somebody to go out there and take the ball and go out there and get you a W. And I really liked having Brandon on the mound, and that 18-5 record for a reliever. And again, he did start one season, but I thought he belonged on this list as well. As long as our next guy and the last pitcher we're going to talk about today, Ryan Brown. Now, people are going to say, the stats are not necessarily up there. 9-4, 3.90 ERA, 20 saves. The 20 saves was huge, and he had some guys in that bullpen that were really good. But he was the guy that you leaned on when you needed a little bit of an attitude guy, a guy to go out there and get after some batters. And a lot of people remember when he pointed to the dugout against the Ducks, and it really meant a lot for Oregon State baseball. And that night with 6 hours of rain, and we were there and soaking wet and watching the whole game, and Rhino goes out there and shuts it down, and it's so important. And one of those things you look at and you say, well, who's a Beaver? Ryan Brown, RB50. He's a Beaver for you forever. Happy to have him on this list. I think he deserved it, and put him on there. This is your 21st century team. As you see, I got the starting lineup here. I'll release this over on Twitter later as well, so you guys can take a look at all this information. I'm proud of this lineup. I'm proud of the team we put together. Please, please, please reach out if you have arguments, you want to discuss this. I'm open for the discussion. I'm here for it. I think there's just a lot of guys. If you want to throw out some names too, when I throw this out there, please throw some names on it. Tag them on there. There's some guys that are definitely deserving to be on this list that did not necessarily make this team. And I'm willing to have those conversations, but I really think that this is a solid team. I think we put it together. Proud of what we put together with my buddies and talking about Beaver baseball. So thanks again for joining us on another episode of Beavs on the Diamond. Every Monday, going to be releasing it here, 7 o'clock PST in season. I think I'm going to try to get one more preseason episode for you guys here before February 14th, before we get after it. And I know that's going to be in Surprise, Arizona. I will not be at that series, but I will be at a lot of series this year, and I can't wait to talk Beaver baseball with you guys. Thanks for joining us here on the College Baseball Central podcast. Again, if you go out there and get Chinook seeds, use code CBC at checkout, get 10% off your order. Thanks, and we'll see you again. I think a couple weeks from now, we'll see you on Monday.